The coronavirus has literally changed our lives, and the one thing about which the entire humanity is curious about right now is, when will a vaccine be ready, so that we can all go back to our past lifestyle? The truth, according to many public health experts, is that it's impossible to predict with much certainty how long it will take before a vaccine is widely available. What's undeniable is that no matter how much money and expertise are thrown at the effort, or how much regulatory red tape is cut, there are steps of the process that simply cannot be sped up. But what comes as a great favor in this rush for vaccine, is that we already have a head start on the first phase of vaccine development, research. The outbreaks of SARS and MERS, which are also caused by coronaviruses, spurred lots of research. SARS and SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19, are roughly 80% identical, and both use so-called spike proteins to grab onto a specific receptor found on cells in human lungs. This helps explain how scientists developed a test for COVID-19 so quickly. This inspires researchers across the globe to move quickly towards finding a vaccine. But there's a cost to moving so quickly. Some experts still believe that the potential COVID-19 vaccines now in the pipeline might be more likely to fail because of the swift march through the research phase. But it doesn't imply that the quick move towards vaccine would be a stupid job. There are still greater chances that the vaccine is gonna be successful, and many researchers believe so. Even otherwise, a shot would be great, because even at a lesser chance of success, we have to do anything possible so that the world have more chance to escape an economic collapse. But still, the process of developing a vaccine has certain rules. Researchers don't begin jabbing people with experimental vaccines until after rigorous safety checks. There are horror stories from the past where vaccines were not properly tested. In the 1950s, for example, a poorly produced batch of a polio vaccine was approved in a few hours. It contained a version of the virus that wasn't quite dead, so patients who got it actually contracted polio. Several children died. So normally, they test the vaccine first on small batches of people, a few dozen during phase 1, then a few hundred in phase 2, then thousands in phase 3. Months normally pass between phases so that researchers can review the findings and get approvals for subsequent phases. But if we do it the conventional way, there's no way we're going to be reaching that timeline of 18 months. If a vaccine proves successful in early trials, regulators could issue an emergency use provision so that doctors, nurses and other essential workers could get vaccinated right away, even before the end of the year. Researchers at Oxford announced this week that their coronavirus vaccine could be ready for emergency use by September if trials prove successful. So researchers might produce a viable vaccine in just 12 to 18 months, but it would still take a lot more time to reach everyone on Earth. Coming back into vaccines, the story of HIV comes into the scenes. Scientists still believe that a vaccine for HIV would not be ready by 2030, that is a big 50 years since, so normally, they started researches. But that shall never be a matter that of concern in case of coronavirus. Because as opposed to HIV, coronavirus doesn't appear to mutate significantly and exists within a family of familiar respiratory viruses. Thus it is not likely that coronavirus vaccine could take longer. The other question is, do we have to rely heavily on a vaccine? And some experts believe that we may have alternative solutions in fight against the pandemic. Therapeutic drugs, rather than vaccines, might likewise change the fight against COVID-19. The World Health Organization began a global search for drugs to treat COVID-19 patients in March. If successful, those drugs could lower the number of hospital admissions and help people recover faster from home. This is because the symptoms of COVID-19 are not much severe, and in fact, a majority of humans affected with coronavirus gets cured even without treatment. Along with that, other actions such as rigorous testing and contact tracing, where infected patients are identified and their recent contacts notified and quarantined, and the future starts looking a little brighter. If all those things come together, life might return to normal long before a vaccine is ready to shoot into your arm. So what do you think? Do we have to lock down the planet until a vaccine is developed, or shall we approach it in a different manner?